So today we're diving into something pretty fascinating in the world of AI coding assistants. We're not just talking about making them smart, we're talking about making them wise. Wise in the ways of your specific code base. We're going to break down how you can actually teach an AI to code, just like one of your own senior developers. So let me ask you this. Does your AI coding assistant ever feel, well, a little generic? I mean, you've probably used one, right? And look, they're great for boilerplate code, for common algorithms, but sometimes the suggestions they miss the mark. They feel like they came straight out of a textbook, not from someone who understands your production environment. And that's really the heart of the issue, isn't it? It writes good code, sure, but it's not your team's code. A generic AI has no idea about your company's internal frameworks, or those specific architectural patterns you've built, or even the unique style your team has developed over the years. It's missing all that local knowledge, the context that makes your software, well, yours. Okay, so this brings us to what we can call the context gap. It's this huge space, right, between what a general-purpose AI knows from the public internet and its total lack of knowledge about your private, proprietary world. And closing this gap, that is absolutely the key to unlocking the next level of AI-assisted development. And this comparison here just lays out the problem perfectly. A generic tool might suggest some standard public library for authentication. But what you really need is for it to use your team's internal auth service v2, the one you've spent months building and refining. The AI needs to know that stuff. And that right there is exactly the gap that Amazon Q Customizations is designed to fill. So how do we actually bridge that gap? Well, the answer isn't just a slightly better generic assistant. No, it's about creating an AI that's a true expert on your code. It's about turning your AI assistant into an extension of your team. So what is an Amazon Q customization, really? Well, at its core, it's basically a private layer of knowledge that you build right on top of the base AI model. You connect it to your code base, and it starts to learn. It learns to give you suggestions that actually align with how your organization builds software. And this is really the perfect way to think about it. It's like training a new team member on your specific projects. I mean, you wouldn't expect a new hire to be productive on day one without any guidance, right? Of course not. You'd point them to your best code, you'd explain your patterns, you'd have them learn the ropes, and that is precisely what you're doing here. But you're doing it for your AI assistant. All right, before we go any further, let's hit pause and talk about the elephant in the room, security. This is super important. The source material is crystal clear on this. Your code, it stays your code. It is never used to train the base Amazon Q model. Your customizations are completely isolated from other AWS customers, and you control exactly who can access it. Your intellectual property stays yours, period. Okay, so how does this all work? How do you actually do it? It might sound pretty complex, but the whole process for an administrator is actually broken down into just 3 main steps. Let's take a look. Yeah, it really just boils down to these 3 steps. First, you prepare your data. This means you curate your best code examples. Second, you connect the source. You just point Q to your code, whether it's in S3 or code connections. And then third, you just create and activate it. Literally, you build and enable the customization right there in the console. That's it. Now, I gotta say, the most important part of this whole process is preparing your data. I mean, quality over quantity is the name of the game here. Remember, you're teaching the AI, so you have to be a good teacher. You want to include code with patterns you want to encourage, and you absolutely want to avoid code with anti-patterns, bugs, or security holes. And please, remove those auto-generated files that just create noise. Seriously, quality is so much more important than quantity here. And to make this a little more concrete, there are some minimums to get started. You need at least 2 megabytes of source code, and within that, you need at least 10 files for each language you want to support. So it's a pretty tangible and achievable starting point. When it comes to connecting your data source, you've got options, which is great. If your code is already in a place like GitHub, GitLab, or Bitbucket, you can use AWS Code Connections to link it up directly, super easy. For pretty much anything else, you just use Amazon S3. Just drop your code base into a folder in a bucket and you're good to go. Okay, so we've seen how an admin gets this all set up, but let's switch hats for a minute. What does this actually look like for the developer? The person who's in their IDE writing code all day. And this is where it gets really good, because it's so simple. It's basically just one click. Inside your IDE, whether you're using Visual Studio Code, a JetBrains IDE, or even Eclipse, it's just a matter of selecting the customization from a menu. There's no complicated setup for the developer. They just pick the one that's right for their project, and that's it. And it actually gets even better. This whole thing is built with enterprise teams in mind. So when an admin activates a new version of the customization, let's say after a big refactor, the developers don't have to do a thing. The updates are completely seamless. They just automatically start getting suggestions from the new and improved version. It's a totally zero-friction process for them. But, okay, let's talk about the practical side of things. What happens after the initial setup? How do you keep your assistant sharp? Let's take a look at how you can optimize and troubleshoot your customization as you go. Because this is the natural question, isn't it? What if the suggestions aren't perfect? You've trained it, but maybe the results are still a little off. Well, the good news is the whole system is designed to be iterative, so you can keep optimizing and troubleshooting. And thankfully, they make troubleshooting pretty manageable. The console gives you really clear error messages with straightforward fixes. For example, if it says insufficient data, well, the action is to add more source code. If the size is too big, you remove some data and update. If it can't retrieve a repository, you check your connection's access. The whole feedback loop is designed to be super clear and actionable. All right, so let's pull back and look at the big picture here. We've talked a lot about the what and the how, but let's really focus on the why. Why does this actually matter for you? Why is this such a big deal? This quote from the documentation, I think, just says it all. Provide assistance that caters to the style of your organization's developers. That's the ultimate goal here. It's to give you an AI assistant that's a true partner, one that actually understands and respects the unique DNA of your code base and your team's culture. Because really what this does is turn your team's institutional knowledge, all that wisdom that's usually just locked away in your code base, into an active, helpful AI partner. Think about it. Your code is this massive repository of knowledge. It's got years of decisions, patterns, and solutions baked into it. And this feature basically transforms that from a static archive into a dynamic, interactive assistant that can help every single developer on your team. So I'll just leave you with this one final thought to chew on. How would your team's development completely change if every single engineer had an expert on your codebase available 24/7? Just imagine the impact on onboarding, on consistency, on productivity. What becomes possible when everyone, from the newest junior dev to the most senior architect, has an always-on expert right there in their editor ready to help?